I enjoy using Anchor podcasting services. For one, it's an easy setup. Secondly, you can do everything on the same platform, which includes record and then add music to your podcast if you like. And once your podcast has been saved, you can then distribute it to other platforms with the click of a button. And did I mention that it's free? You couldn't ask for anything better than this. Thank you for tuning into Bringing the Heat with Regina Weston. Here we inspire and deal with topics that matter. Stay tuned. Hold up and wait a minute, Bringing the Heat listeners. To find out about all things Regina, visit my website at www.reginaweston.com. There you can purchase all my books and learn more about my nonprofit organization, which is Mending Hearts, Women Healing Women. And if you would like to support this podcast, you can do so by using my Cash App, $RWeston252. Now let's get into it. Your temper is like a fire. It's very destructive when it gets out of control. He that hath no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls. That's Proverbs 25 and 28. When a person loses his temper, one of the most common expressions used to describe the situation is fly off the handle. This phrase refers to the head of a hammer coming loose from its handle as the carpenter attempts to use it. Several things happen as a result. Number one, the hammer becomes useless, no longer good for work. In like manner, when a person loses his temper, he often loses his effectiveness. Anything he says may not be taken seriously and is likely to be unproductive. Number two, the hammerhead, twirling out of control, is likely to cause some type of damage to anything in his path. The person who loses his temper causes damage even if he doesn't realize it, perhaps physically, to people or objects in his way, and nearly always emotionally to those who feel they are victims of uncontrolled wrath. And number three, the repair of both the hammer and the resultant damage takes time. The person who loses his temper may recover quickly, but the one who is the victim of a hot temper rarely recover as quickly. The message: keep your temper today. Why? Because nobody wants it. This is taken from God's little devotional book. Now stay tuned. For the month of October, I have been highlighting domestic violence because I'm a domestic violence advocate. I educate the community about domestic violence and the effect that it has on the family. On this podcast, I would like to leave some bullet points with you. Did you know that 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have been physically abused by an intimate partner? Did you know that 1 in 3 female victims and 1 in 20 male murder victims are likely killed by their intimate partner? Did you know that survivors of domestic violence, 52% of female domestic violence survivors have post-traumatic stress disorder? Did you know that many victims of domestic violence loses their lives to guns, knives, and strangulation? Did you know that depression and domestic violence goes together? The abuse can even trigger clinical depression, a serious mental health disorder. Did you know new mothers in abusive relationships were also found to be twice as likely to suffer postpartum depression? And did you know that 1 in 4 adults suffer from a diagnosable mental disorder? Did you know that domestic violence is often a contributor or cause of homelessness? Because escaping an abusive situation means leaving your residence where the abuse is occurring. Sometimes victims are unable to find shelter through friends, family, or community resources. Facts on battered women in prison. Did you know that an estimated range between 40 to 80% of women convicted of murder acted in self-defense against their abusers? Everybody that's behind bars, ladies and gentlemen, are not criminals. Some people are behind bars because they were trying to save their own life. Hence, 75 to 80% of women who killed in self-defense are convicted or convinced to plead guilty and are sentenced to long-term prison sentences. Let me tell you something. The person that abuses, he or she does it because it's a choice. No one can make you do anything. If they put their hands on you, it's because they're making a conscious choice to do so. Being abusive towards another person, you do it because you feel like you have the right to exert power over your partner, and you don't. No matter what occurs in a relationship, I want everyone under the sound of my voice to know that abuse is never okay and is never justified. Abuse is a learned behavior. Sometimes people see it in their own families. Oftentimes they learn it from friends or popular culture. However, abuse, again, is a choice, and it is not one that anyone has to make. You can't keep her in a cage, clip her wings, tell her lies, say that fragile birds were never meant to fly. Watch her live behind a rusted door, latched tight, her spirit slipping away, so you can keep her in sight. Beautiful creatures cannot be confined. Her wings will grow. She'll find the sky. A poem written by Christy Ann Martin. Love does not hurt. Now, if you would like to support this podcast, you can do so by using my Cash App at $RWeston252. Now, until we meet again, go and grab yourself a mirror. Look in the mirror and say to yourself, I am loved, I am unique, and I am valuable. Now give yourself a kiss. That's a kiss from me to you. Know that I love you and I got your back. Thank you, Bringing the Heat listeners. To listen to this podcast, go to anchorfm.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Play, where we bring